environmental science, glaciology, and geology degree. People always ask me what I'm going to do with that degree when I'm done. Well, geology, so probably drive buses, but we'll figure that out when we get there. Don't worry about it. I'm not yet. Now, my friends, I want to know where you guys are coming in from. I'm just looking at something. There's a little animal. I can't tell if he's a marmot. It's about our 1 o'clock on the side of the moraine there. Just watch for him to move. I think it's a marmot. Marmots are large rodents. They're called hoary marmots, not because they're promiscuous, but because they have a silver coat. Yeah, totally a marmot. You guys see him moving? He's on the, about our 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, right on the moraine. He's walking, waddling around. Kind of looks like a... Oh, he's hidden behind that large boulder. He might not come out now. Keep an eye out to the right. There he is. He's in there. See, look, there's a bushy tail. He's doing something. All right, our first animal encounter. I love the marmots. I find they're really nice, medium rare. Nice steak sauce. Oh. All right, friends, I want to know where you guys are coming in from. So, as far as Canadians go, anyone from British Columbia? British Columbia? No one. Wow, that's weird. Alberta? Manitoba? Yeah, I didn't think people lived there. Apparently they do. Saskatchewan?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready for this one. Ontario?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. You guys love to leave there, so I always have a few. What about East Coast and Territories? Anyone there? Alright, now places outside of Canada. Quebec! Any Quebec? Bonjour? Oh, I can't speak French, so we're just going to go about this in English. Alright, what about outside? Anyone from the United States of America? Oh, welcome, welcome. Well, for you Americans, this white stuff we have here, this is called snow. S-N-O-W. Snow. I'm trying to think where other people are from. Germany?
Yes.
Nice. Good dog. Ireland?
Yes.
Hey, anywhere I missed? Beautiful. Well, my friends, today we are going to a glacier. Now, there's a bit of a difference between a glacier and an ice field. I know your tickets say Columbia Ice Field on it. That's not where we're going. So put your hands out in the air, flat, with your palm up. Your palm is an ice field, and on your fingers are the glaciers. That's all I need your hand for. The ice field is just this massive field of ice that feeds the glaciers. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you the Athabasca Glacier. This is she right in front of us. Now the Athabasca Glacier is one of 6 glaciers that is fed by the Columbia Ice Field. This is not the only one, and in fact it's not even the biggest. The Athabasca Glacier is about 5 square kilometers, so it's 1 kilometer wide and 5 kilometers long. For the Americans, that's about 3.5 miles long. So this is around 5 square kilometers of ice. Now the Columbia Ice Field is up at the top of those ice steps. They're kind of tough to see because they're out at the front of the bus right now, but once we're going down that hill that you'll see in a second. So the Columbia Ice Field is 165 square kilometers. It's much larger than the Athabasca Glacier, and in fact the Columbia Ice Field can fit the town of Banff on it 34 times. So it's really big. At the center of the ice field, it's roughly 400 meters thick of ice. So 400 meters of ice are being pulled down by gravity, and as gravity does this, it pushes the ice to the sides. And it pushes on the back of the Athabasca Glacier, and it causes this whole glacier to move downhill. Now it actually moves a lot faster than you would think. This glacier moves by 30 centimeters or 1 foot every day. Every single day it moves down. So I do apologize if your goal was to bring your spouse up here and then leave them on the glacier. It's just going to meet you at the bottom. It's not going to work. Now as the glacier moves, it grinds against the sides of the mountains and all the stones, and it breaks them up. pushes them to the sides, and if you look to the right across the valley, do you see that coarse rocky ridgeline there? That is called a lateral moraine. A moraine is a French word, very fancy, that means pile of dirt. And this pile of dirt was put there by the glacier. So the height of that moraine tells us how high the glacier got up to in recent history, when it was at its largest. And that was in 1843. Now if you look at this moraine, you may notice it's really steep. Well, I want you to take a look in front of me. Is anybody scared of heights?
Yep.
I gotta know.
Yes.
You guys are either really brave or really quiet. So we're gonna find out who is who in just a second, because this is the hill that we have to go down to get onto the Athabasca Glacier. Now this beautiful hill is the steepest unpaved road used commercially in North America. So I'm gonna ask one more time. Is anybody scared of heights? Alright, hold on. So at this point in time, please put on your seatbelt if you haven't done so already. Please hold on to your lunches and your children. Don't send those up here. I don't want either of them. And don't worry, folks. This is going to be the slowest roller coaster ride you've ever been on. We're not even at the steepest part yet. Boy, you guys got so quiet. So I'm gonna bring a little bit of relief to you. There's a few things that are gonna let us go down this nice and safe and slow. So the first thing is my brain, because it's done this once or twice, but the more important thing is the bus itself. Each of these tires, each one, costs $7,000. Oh yeah, big price tag. 6 per bus, and we have 22 buses. You can do the math, that's a lot. But the buses themselves, they weren't cheap either. Each one of these buses cost, well this one specifically, cost $1.8 million. Now it's powered by a Mercedes-Benz engine, which is why it's so overpriced. This engine makes about 300 horsepower, but 950 foot-pound of torque. It's a torquey bus, and that's because we're not going fast, we're going everywhere. Now my friends, if you look to our 10 o'clock, you can see those ice steps up there better. Left-hand side, 10 o'clock. Everything around here is really, really big right there. So it takes away from the perspective of it all. Now from the bottom of the first ice step to the top of the third ice step, there's around 1,000 meters in elevation difference, 3,000 feet of ice. And they're really actually quite far apart. From the top of the third to the bottom of the first, it's around a mile. 1.5 kilometers in distance. Look on the hands! Woo! We're almost at the bottom. If you look out the left, you can actually see some rocks that are falling down the side of the rain there. A little rock slide almost. And just like that, we're at the bottom. I know my mic turned off. And so I'm gonna, oh, hi. Beautiful. So, has any of you been on a glacier before? Or is this the first time for everybody? First time for everyone, eh? Well, guess what? You've now all been on a glacier. Because we are on one right now. Alright, we're here. You can breathe, unclench your fists, let that blood pressure go down a bit. So, on the left, you see how those rocks are falling down. They're covering up this road here, but more importantly, they're covering up what's underneath it. Underneath around 2 meters of rock that we're driving on right now is around 150 meters of ice. And that's because a large chunk of ice has become disconnected from the Athabasca Glacier that's on the right-hand side. For that reason, it's no longer moving. And so this allows it to get covered up by the rock falling from the moraine. We call this ice core moraine. Now later in the summer, when we have really large water surges, it actually cuts little cracks into the top of this surface, so you can see the ice underneath. Now, speaking of the ice, you look back at the Athabasca Glacier on our right. Wow, beautiful. You guys remember how much this glacier moves in a day? A foot, exactly. So as it moves that foot, there's a lot of pressure on the ice. It's bending, grinding against the sides of the mountain, and that ice isn't supposed to bend. So to relieve this pressure, it breaks. You can see these lines that run across the surface of the glacier. These are called crevasses. A crevasse is the way that the glacier bends and flexes through the valley as it's moving. Now I'm going to make it very, very easy for you to remember the word crevasse, because glaciers have crevasses, mountains have crevices, and human beings have cracks. So try not to mix those words up. Now this is where the tour turns into a boat tour. So you got life jackets under each one of your seats. I'm going to get you to put those on, please and thank you. I'm going to go for a little swim here. And we call this little puddle, rather big puddle, the tire wash. And we actually purposefully divert the water here to clean the wheels. I'm not joking. Why are you laughing? It's not a joke, I'm being serious. We don't want to get the glacier all dirty. But there's a better reason than it just makes your photos look ugly. There's a real reason we don't want to track dirt onto the glacier. So, think about a really sunny day. You're sitting on a beach. If you're wearing a white t-shirt, the worst you probably get is a bad sunburn. But if you're wearing a black t-shirt, absorb some sunlight, you get heat stroke. I have had this happen before. The same thing happens to a glacier. You have this grime, this layer of dirt on top of the glacier, and it actually absorbs sunlight and melts tiny little holes into the surface of the glacier. Now this does happen naturally. This grime you see on the right is called cryocanite. Cryocanite literally means snow dust. And cryocanite is anything from little microbes to rock flour, rock dust, anything that's blowing from the atmosphere onto the surface of the glacier, and it can collect to form these little black things you see on the right called cryocanite cones. Now there is one other color that you're going to see here. If you look at the ice on either side of the road where the water is flowing, what color is the ice? Somebody help me out, what is it? It's blue. It's blue, exactly. And I'll tell you why it's blue. It's blue because it's fed by the tears of Toronto Maple Leafs fans. Yeah, it's been growing since 1967, last time they won the cup. I know, isn't that crazy? No, it's blue because as the ice is being formed, it squeezes the air out of the ice. So this ice is really dense. Doesn't have a lot of air bubbles in it. Do you guys like margaritas and mojitos? I do too. So that ice has little tiny air bubbles in it. That's why it looks white. But this ice is blue. Now there's one more place you can see this blue color in some ice. If you look up and to the left at our 9 o'clock and our 10 o'clock, there are two more glaciers up there. So right there at 9 o'clock, that is double A. And then at our 10 o'clock, that is Andromeda. Now just to give you an idea of how powerful these glaciers are at eroding the mountains and breaking them apart, that glacier on our left, if not for that being there, those two mountains would only be one mountain. It has completely formed the valley that it's sitting in. Most of the reason the Rocky Mountains look like they do is because they've had glaciers come through the area. Alright, my fine friends. So, before I let you run wild and rampant on the surface of the glacier, we got a couple ground rules to go through. All right, so you can see out the windows there's a cleared area that has been graded away. We have done this on purpose because this is where you can walk. It's marked with signs around called boundary signs. What we've done here is we've actually filled in the crevasses so we know that it's safe to walk around here. Outside of the boundary zone, massive crevasses. The ice underneath our feet is 280 meters deep. 280 meters of ice. That means the crevasses can go down 280 meters. If you fall in a crevasse, I can't get you out. It's Parks Canada. Their government run. It's going to be 5 days before they get here. So please don't fall in any crevasses. Stay in the area. The next thing is big buses have big blind spots, so please don't go behind the buses at any time. And the very last thing is the time we're going to be getting on this bus is noon sharp. Wheels rolling at noon. Can somebody shout out the current time for me? So it's 11:36. We got about 25 minutes on the glacier, and I mean wheels rolling at noon. Sounds good, guys? All right. If you have any questions or want photos taken, I'm out there with you. Let's get going.